What is up, guys? Welcome to Dive In Garage. In today's video, we're going to be comparing using Plastigauge and using a real dial bore gauge to measure for oil clearance. And we're going to be finding out if you can just get away with using Plastigauge and if it's close enough, or if the real measuring tools can do a better job. Let's dive in. All right, so the first method we're going to be using here is the measuring tool. So I got the micrometer set up to 2.300, which is the main journal size, and I got the actual dial bore gauge set to that. And if you're curious on how to do this, so what you do is you can find the one that's closest to what you'll be measuring. So you want to go down a size. So I got 2.2, I don't know if you can see that, a little fitting right there. And then you're going to grab one of these little adapters to make up the difference. So you stack those on, get them set up, and then I can't quite show you this with one hand, but you get the end there and you put it in that span like, oh, come on, there we go, perfect, oh, like that. And as you're doing that, you kind of get wiggle it back and forth, and you watch the gauge. And what you do is this outer ring here that rotates. There's a little locking thumb screw there, and you rotate that to where the needle, as you're moving it like this in this little space, you find where it lands at 0, and then you set the ring to that and you tighten it down. So now we know that this dial bore gauge is set to 2.300, or if you want to say it, 2 and 300. I don't know how many people that say that, but 2.3 is fine. And then once you got that set up, we're gonna get this, stick it in there, and then we'll kind of do the same kind of motion. We'll wiggle it back and forth, see where it lands, and then that's gonna be our oil clearance. All right, so we got our setup here, and we're gonna put it in. We're gonna put it in first, straight up and down, and then we'll go at 2 angles. But the thing to watch out here for is you don't want to go exactly horizontal, because you'll end up with a little measuring piece will end up in that little crack. You'll get excited readings that are way off. And you also don't want to be right in the middle, because there's obviously that huge like oil valley. So right on either side is what we're going to go for. So first up, we'll go straight up and down, and I'll see if I can get you a visual here. And remember, this is set up for 2.3, so this is going to read, it should read under that, and that's going to be the oil clearance between the crankshaft and the actual main bearings. So kind of give it that back and forth motion, and you kind of stop right where you see the needle pause. So if you look here, we have, I'm going to call it 3.5 thou, which isn't bad. A lot of people freak out and they think that if you're over 3, you're done. But really, if you're making more power than stock, you need a little bit more oil clearance. So now what we can do is we can kind of measure it at 2 different angles and see what the rest is. This is also how you find out if your, I guess, main tunnel here is out of round. Do the same deal here. And then one more, you're not gonna be able to see this one. About the same reading there. Okay, so now we know a couple things. We have, let's call it 3.5 thou oil clearance. And also we know that it's the circle. You know, it's not an oval, it's not an egg shape, it's nothing crazy. So that's really all there is to using the dial bore gauge. It's really not hard. If you even think you'll be doing another motor in your life at some point, I would buy the tools. I'll tell you exactly where I got all these tools at the end of the video, and I'll put links in the description. Okay, so we're done. So that part is pretty easy. We know what we got. I mean, if you want to take notes, and of course you want to measure every single main, I'm just showing you an example, and take notes, write down what they all are, to make sure you got uniform clearance. So now I'm gonna get this switched over to prepare to use the Plastigauge. A few quick tips while you're doing this. Of course, when you got your main bearings, you know your crankshaft is going in for the last time. Lube them up with some assembly grease real good. I use this stuff. It's easily available at most parts stores. And don't forget your rear main seal. It's easy to forget at this step. A few tips on installing that. You see how some of the block is showing right here? It's kind of protruding up. If you read the directions, it says to offset this. So if you install it like that, you might have a chance of a leak. So it says to offset it like this. And then what I'm going to do is actually get a little bit of RTV, put it here, 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 and here, and then that'll help make that a permanent seal. And then of course, before you drop your crank in, make sure you lubricate all of the surfaces, all of the bearings, all of the journals, and then make sure you lubricate the bottom half of the main and lubricate on that bearing as well. Okay, so I got the other mains placed. I'm going to get them torqued down as well, but I wanted to put the Plastigauge down. So the way this works is pretty easy. So I cut off in sections of about, I don't know, one of these little deals here, so just one section, and that's really all you need. The mains aren't super huge, and that's all the information you're gonna need. So you get that a cut, and then we're gonna set that to the side, and we're gonna open this up. And that little green, if you can see it right there, that's the Plastigauge. So we're gonna grab that and make sure this is not lubricated on this one you're measuring, of course. I measured everything, or I lubricated everything but this one. So I'm gonna lay it down right there nice and gently on the top. So if you can, it's there. I promise it's there. If you can see, all right, now let's get this main cap on. And then I'll go ahead and tighten everything too, so we know that the crank is nice and solid. There's no variances anywhere. And then we'll remove this cap and see what we got. That's it. So now our Plastigauge is flattened, and I can pull this main cap back off and see what we got. Okay, so come down here and look. If you can see this green section right here in the middle. So now all you do is get your little paper and you line up the width of this to the width of the paper. So let's see what we got here. Oh, that's the wrong side. Here we go. Okay, here we go. I couldn't quite get the GoPro to focus on that, so I got my phone out here. Here we go. So let's try and match it up. It is not, get my fat fingers out of the way. There we go, so you can see. So I wouldn't say it's not a 1 thou. I wouldn't say it's a 1.5 thou. 2 thou. Honestly, it looks pretty good. It's not 3, according to this. Yeah, I'd probably call that 2 thou clearance according to the Plastigauge. So according to the Plastigauge, we got 2 thou clearance. Now, if I didn't have my measuring tools, I'd be concerned. I would be worried about what my clearance is, how much pressure this thing's gonna make. I'd be worried about longevity. So that is the difference between Plastigauge versus a dowel bore gauge. All in all, about 1 thou, 1.5 thou. In the real world, that's nothing. No one would ever notice. But in engine building, that could be the difference between smoking bearings, smoking a crank, breaking down on the side of the highway, or doing burnouts and going down the track. So which one of these are you gonna pick? I know what my pick is. I'll put it down in the comment section. Join me there. Let me know which one you're gonna pick and why. I know a lot of people live and die by this stuff, but we'll see what you guys think. Well guys, if you liked the video, make sure you hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and get out there and dive into your next project. Catch you next time. Yeah, I think you knew the answer.